When I was mercifully allowed to join Srila Prabhupada's glorious International Society for Krishna Consciousness in 1975, the whole movement, especially in the Western world, was alive with the spirit of distributing Srila Prabhupada's transcendental books for the sake of uplifting a fallen civilization. And even the very ordinary devotees, or aspiring devotees like myself, could feel the reciprocation of Srila Prabhupada as we were out there distributing his books, and we felt the transcendental bliss of giving Srila Prabhupada and his gifts from the spiritual world to people, spirit souls who had no connection with Krishna for millions, trillions, zillions of lifetimes. Now all of a sudden they are getting the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. The spirit was, it seems, especially high in America at that time, as devotees were more and more discovering ways to distribute many, many, many books in more and more inconceivable quantities. I'm going to relate an anecdote, paraphrase an anecdote that we find related in Hari Shari Prabhu's Transcendental Diary. It concerns a competition that devotees, well, I'll tell you what happened. Thanksgiving Day is celebrated in America. I believe it's the last Thursday in November. It's shortly before the Christmas season begins. And huge numbers of people travel. It's a holiday, a family holiday, so people go back to their families spread all over. And huge numbers of people travel in America on those days, on the days just before Thanksgiving, and especially the day right before Thanksgiving. And our devotees were distributing books in the airports. So the day before Thanksgiving is a prime day for distributing books to the many travelers who come through the airport. So what happens? Uttama Shloka Prabhu is the temple president in Chicago, where there is O'Hare Airport, which may be the busiest airport in the world. On that day, 1975, Thanksgiving Day, it was later reported that 220,000 people had gone through the airport on that single day, the day before Thanksgiving. So what happens is, just before the day before Thanksgiving, Rameshwar Prabhu, I'm not sure if he was a sannyasi at that time, anyway, it doesn't matter, who was always stoking up the fire of book distribution and enthusing devotees in his Los Angeles base and all over the world. So he calls up Uttama Shloka and says, hey, we're giving you a challenge. We're going to distribute more books than you on the day before Thanksgiving. And let's call Atlanta into the competition also, because they have a good airport and good book distributors. So it was a three-way contest. But the two biggies were Los Angeles and Chicago. So Uttama Shloka Prabhu, they'd already made some preparations for huge book distribution on that day. So they accepted the challenge. What happened, Rameshwar, he opened up by saying, well, how many books do you think you can distribute? And Uttama Shloka said, oh, I hadn't thought about it. Maybe we could do as many as 1,200 books in one day. That would be unprecedented. And then Rameshwar said, no, we're going to beat you. Whatever you do, we're going to beat you. There's the challenge. Okay, so up to Thanksgiving Day in Chicago, Uttama Shloka Prabhu, he had a feeling this is going to be something really special. So he, apart from being the town president, coordinating, getting devotees out, getting their prasad out to them, making sure they have enough books to keep them supplied, and just seeing everything ticks nicely with different devotees and different terminals. And he thought, I got to keep a record of this. This is something historic. And it was. Devotees would ride out early from 6:30 in the morning, out distributing, getting the first wave. By mid-morning they checked, and already they were well on the way to doing a new world record. Now I'm going to backtrack here. So what happened? So by mid-morning they're well on the way to a new world record for one temple to distribute more books than any other. They went on through the day, and devotees came back late at night, and it was amazing. And mid-morning the next day, Thanksgiving Day, Rameshwar phones up and said, "Well, how did you do?" And Uttama Shloka replies, "Oh, it was great, it was great, it was amazing. I couldn't imagine how many books we did. How many did you do?" And Rameshwar says, in a mood that we definitely beat you, Rameshwar says on the phone, "We distributed over 1,800 books in one day," convinced that he had beaten the Chicago team. And then Uttama Shloka, feigning disappointment, said, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. You did so many books. I couldn't imagine you could do so many books." And then Rameshwar says, "Well, how many did you do?" And Uttama Shloka says, "Well, I'm sorry to say that we could only manage to do," he's saying it in a voice as if he's defeated, "we only managed to do 2,042 books. No, Rameshwar said. Uttama Shloka said, "Well, I couldn't help feeling a little bit of happiness at the distress of the Los Angeles devotees." Anyway, it was all transcendental competition, and Rameshwar, he congratulated the Chicago devotees, and Uttama Shloka sent a report. He typed it all out and sent it to the Los Angeles devotees, explaining, giving the details of everything that had happened. And the idea was that Rameshwar would read it to the Los Angeles devotees, but Rameshwar Prabhu put it in the BBT newsletter, which goes out all over the world to all the temples, and it went to Srila Prabhupada, and it was read out to Srila Prabhupada. And Hari Shari Prabhu recounts in his Transcendental Diary how Srila Prabhupada received this report. You can imagine, Srila Prabhupada was in bliss. Srila Prabhupada's always in bliss, but this book distribution news really visibly enthused him. So the report, I'm paraphrasing, you can read it in Hari Shari Prabhu's Transcendental Diary. By lunchtime, 1 o'clock, the devotees all took a break, and they had a little parley, and they found out they'd already done 750 books. They were close to breaking the world record for one temple's distribution in one day, and it was only halfway through the day, and it was the day when you're going to distribute so many books. There's so many people and in a happy mood. So by 1 o'clock, Manu Sutta Prabhu had already done 100 books, Pragosh 80, Tripurari Swami 70, and the devotees they were just feeling more and more transcendental ecstasy, and they're all back distributing books by 1:30 p.m. So everything's going great, books are going out. "Excuse me, sir, give him a book." "Yeah, okay, give a donation." It's going on. Hard work, no doubt, hard work. It wasn't that people were just coming up to the devotees and taking the books. It was intense book distribution, completely focused on every individual. You just, the power of the desire to distribute the book overcomes the desire of the non-devotee who knows nothing about the book to keep his money and use it for sense gratification. But about 4 o'clock, some demoniac person comes up and just started breaking up sales, beating the devotees, and devotees responded physically as they had to. And what happens? The police come, and the police don't arrest the guy who started all the fracas, but they arrest the devotees. And then after that also, more devotees got arrested because there were these demoniac people who just didn't like to see Lord Chaitanya's movement spread. So there were some setbacks. Devotees were arrested, then they were released, so they were back, but there was some time lost. Srila Prabhupada was listening to this description of the fight, the physical fights that devotees. We're not recommending you go around physically fighting, but that was a situation at the time. Sometimes it happened, and especially when the devotees were doing very well, Maya would strike back more. So Srila Prabhupada, he listened to all this. He was opening his eyes wide and listening to what his disciples were going through for the sake of distributing his books, and the ecstasy they were feeling, and the opposition they were up against, and they weren't deterred by the opposition. They just be physically assaulted, get arrested, and go right back and distribute books. Srila Prabhupada was as amazed as everyone else, and Harishari Prabhu gave the description. He was just, Srila Prabhupada was glowing listening to this. 10:30 p.m. Devotees have been out since 6:30 in the morning. Over 1,700 books distributed. Still going on. We might break 2,000. The number of people coming into the airport is slowing down, but still. Who can imagine the mercy of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Some of the devotees got back at 2 o'clock in the morning. Didn't even go to sleep. Others who came back at midnight, they got up for Mangalarti, but then they just rested. The whole morning was given to resting and chanting your rounds, and then at midday there was a big feast for the devotees there. In Chicago, 2 men did over 400 books between them. Manu Sutta Prabhu set a new world record with 210 books in one day. Pragosh was just behind with 200. And there were several other men and women devotees who got past the 100-book mark, and a total of 2,042 big books of Srila Prabhupada. They were distributed in one single day by the hard work and efforts of these devotees. And Srila Prabhupada was very pleased, and very pleased. And Rameshwar, he put this report in the BBT newsletter in huge block capital letters. He wrote out, "The most ecstatic Sankirtan newsletter of all time should be read aloud to all the assembled devotees." Srila Prabhupada, on hearing this, immediately dictated a letter to be sent to Uttama Shloka Prabhu, a classic letter. I'll read it. "Please accept my blessings. I read your Sankirtan newsletter with great relish. Europe and America are in great danger. This Hare Krishna movement is enveloping them. The Sankirtan devotees are very, very dear to Krishna. Because they are doing the field work of book distribution, Krishna has immediately recognized them as true servants. Just like during the wartime, a farm boy or ordinary clerk who goes out to fight for his country on the front immediately becomes a national hero for his sincere effort. So Krishna immediately recognizes a preacher of Krishna consciousness who takes all risks to deliver his message. It is called Duravrata, determination. These boys and girls are Mahatmas. Mahatma anastu mang parata Daiving Prakritim Ashritaha Bhajantyananya Manaso Gyatva Bhutadim Avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls who are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. This verse is applicable here. If these boys were under the material nature, they would not take so much risk. They are Mahatmas. They are real Mahatmas, not the long beard and saffron cloth Mahatma. They are unswerving in their determination. Jiravrata. All glories to the American devotees. That's a classic letter from Srila Prabhupada, which he concludes saying, I hope this letter finds you and all the Sankirtan devotees well. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So you can feel Srila Prabhupada's deep pleasure, his deep ecstasy in knowing that the mission that he came to this world to execute, of spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement all over the world, is going on so strongly, with so many books of Krishna consciousness being distributed. These big airports, just like O'Hare in Chicago, books were got all over America, all over the world. Srila Prabhupada was in ecstasy, and you can feel it from the letter he wrote and from Harishari Prabhu's description. Later, shortly after Srila Prabhupada passed away, the book distribution emphasis shifted to Europe. Europe became the main spot for book distribution, and Russia and the USSR, the ex-USSR came up, and then India came up. And in India, thousands of books can be distributed by one person just in one exchange by sponsorship. You get, it's not, you shouldn't get the idea that it's just so easy that you just make a phone call and someone agrees, but usually people have been cultivated for quite some time, and devotees convinced that, okay, you sponsor 1,000 books, and like this. So many, many books can be done. And of course, the majority of books distributed in India at the present time, India is way ahead in book distribution over the rest of the world for the last quite a few years now. But most of it's done by the hard work of devotees just going out and doing it. It's hand to hand. And although definitely people in India are more pious, but it's the hard work of many devotees who are distributing many books. In the 1980s, 90s, and 1980s and 1990s, Europe was very big, especially in Switzerland. Harinamananda, Navina Nirada Prabhu, and there's also Jai Guru Dev, there were three, and there are many others also. It's a small country, Switzerland. Devotees got the knack of doing sets of books to people on the street. Not to everyone, of course, but when they found someone more favorable, they just distributed a stack of books to devotees on the street. And during this period, Harinamananda Prabhu set a world record of personally distributing 907 Maha and big books in one day. That's phenomenal. We find the effort and the amazing that Manu Sutta Prabhu and Pragosh, they both went over the 200 books marks. It was astonishing to everyone, including Srila Prabhupada, who poured his blessings. But then we find devotees doing hundreds of books every day in Germany and Switzerland especially. And Harinamananda went up to 907 in one day. Okay, fast forward to the 2020s. And there's one devotee from India who's now in America. Mahotsaha Prabhu is his name. So he wanted to break that record of Harinam Ananda. He wanted to do more for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees. So he tried one day, but he meditate. Okay, one day I'm going to do it, but for various reasons, Maya acted. He got out late, and he wrote to me that I could only distribute 700 Maha big books, Maha big and big books, and 49 small books. So I wrote back to him, see if you can get up to 1,000 books a day. Now we're talking about 100 books a day was huge. Now see if you can get up to 1,000 books a day, or at least sometimes. I wrote to him, I know it is not easy, but now you know that it is within the realm of possibility. So keep on trying and keep on praying. Shortly after that, into 2022. So yeah, it was just toward the end of 2021 that I got a mail from Mahotsaha Prabhu. He'd broken the 1,000 mark. He had distributed 1,177 books single-handedly. Of course, he'd have a helper. It's just like the shooting the arrows. You need to keep on filling the quiver. So in the same way, distributing the books, you need someone to keep on replenishing supplies of books, because if you have to run backwards and forwards, you're going to waste so much time. So he did 1,177 books in one day, which is, how is it possible? How is it possible? It's only possible by transcendental rains of mercy, giving out that mercy. You have to have so much mercy pouring in to be able to give so much mercy out. But let's go forward to May 2022. Mahotsaha Prabhu wrote that he was able to distribute 1,310 Mahabig books, which includes 28 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. Where was he distributing? In a parking lot. Coal sales to people. The majority of them wouldn't have even, no question of them of even having heard anything about Srimad Bhagavatam ever. Most of them had never heard of the Hare Krishna movement. And up comes Mahotsaha, dressed, they can recognize he looks like a monk. Maybe they know that from movies about Buddhists or something. But no idea what it's all about. But just by his great enthusiasm, spiritual enthusiasm, Mahotsaha means great enthusiasm. It's a name of Krishna. So he's Mahotsaha Das. And with that great enthusiasm, 28 Srimad Bhagavatam books in a parking lot to what you can call regular Americans in Atlanta, USA, and a total of 1,310 Mahabig books. And on top of that, 692 medium and small books, which set a new world record of 2,002 books in one day, one man. That means he's giving sets of books and then stacks of books. The whole idea, if you're going to approach someone, why sell them just one book? Sell them a whole set of Bhagavatams, or 7 books, or 5 books, or give them lots and lots of mercy in the form of Srila Prabhupada's book. So there we go. From a whole team at O'Hare Airport in 1975, a whole team together distributing 2,042 books between them, setting an unimaginable world record that even Rameshwar was completely astonished by, even Srila Prabhupada was completely astonished by. Srila Prabhupada writes a letter with great appreciation for the whole team, and here we have one devotee on an ordinary day in a parking lot. Srila Prabhupada would quote Napoleon as saying impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. It is impossible for one devotee to distribute 2,000 books in one day. It's impossible. But by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, the impossible becomes possible. Is there any limit to all of this? Doesn't seem like it, because 2,000 books, world record. Okay, listen to this. Just a few days ago, we're talking about June 2022, Mahotsa himself, 1,590 Mahabig books, 1,414 medium and small books, which includes 34 Bhagavatam sets, the 44-volume set, 47 book stacks, 1,320 loose, small and medium books, for a grand total of 3,004 books distributed by one man in one day, all sold cold. That means you're not... What happens, or what used to happen sometimes before the marathon here in India, before the sponsored distribution was put in a different category in the Sankirtan newsletter, devotees would line up in advance. They'd tell their regular donors, hey, look, on December the 1st or whatever, I want you to sponsor so many books. So they'd arrange it all in advance, but this was nothing arranged in advance. The only thing that was arranged in advance was for the devotee to go there and to have the books there. And the people just come up, they know nothing about it, and all of a sudden they have a stack of books or a whole set of books distributed by one man. What's the limit? It seems there is no limit. How can you do it? It means you just meet someone. You can't spend a lot of time with someone if you're going to distribute so many books. You're going to distribute a set of books. It's a big thing in someone's life. They're going to bring out maybe a couple of $100 or whatever it is. It's a big thing, but it just boom, boom. You can't spend too much time with them. The whole idea is to get out as many books as possible. Of course, there'll be a contact, there'll be a card on the book, so the person who takes the books can contact for further information. But what's the upper limit? It seems, is it possible to go further and further and further? 100 books seemed to, even to distribute any big books. In the very beginning of the movement, it seemed practically impossible. To do 10 books a day was unimaginable and huge, and then devotees went up 100, they broke the 100 book mark, and then the 200 book mark, and then it gradually went up to 900 books, and now 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. What is the limit? There's no limit to Krishna's mercy. There's no limit. Of course, we're looking for consistency over the years, not a flash in the pan, although a flash in the pan of thousands of books in one day. We want more flashes in the pan like that, but we're looking for consistency over the years. But as Srila Prabhupada noted, the devotees who are risking like that, doing like that, they're very, very dear to Krishna. They're empowered by Krishna. So we can simply pray that Mahotsa Prabhu and so many others who are dedicating their lives in Srila Prabhupada's service, in distributing his books, a new generation of book distributors coming up in the West, in America, that they can remain steady on the path, keep on going over the years, inspire others. And although I'm based in India, I'm happy to see the huge book distribution scores in India. India's way ahead of the world. I'm sure Srila Prabhupada will be extremely pleased if America can again be top in the world in book distribution. Not that we want India to go down, but America can come up more and more and more and more and more and more and more. The scope is there. If one man can do it, others can do it. It maybe not everyone's going to be empowered to the same extent, but then if you have a whole army all over the country, so many devotees distributing books, then you're going to get a lot of books out there. So there's the great challenge for America ahead. It's a great challenge every day. Every person you meet, it's a challenge that now you just met them and you want to you want to get through with them quickly, but you want to see that they get Prabhupada's books before they go off back into their world, into their illusory world. But they should go with the books that can take them out of that. So great. Let's see America come up. Let's see Srila Prabhupada's great desire for America to lead the world in Krishna consciousness. Let's see that realized, and the prime means for effecting that. There's so much work to be done on so many fronts, but let's see the book distribution go up and up and up and up and up, and impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So we should all be very grateful to Mahotsaha Prabhu for showing what is possible. Of course, he's able to do that because he knows that he's not doing it. It's all the mercy coming down from all the devotees who have preceded him in book distribution, coming down from Srila Prabhupada and all the parampara. So let others also grab onto that mercy and give it out in the form of hundreds and thousands, and who knows, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of Srila Prabhupada's books. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha dante nitaya churnakang padayo nipatya kritvacha kakushataveta daham bravimi hey sadava sakala eva vihaya durad Gauranga Chandra Charne Kurutanu Ragaha Parivadatu Jano Yata Tatava Nanumukarona Vayang Vicharayamaha Hari Rasamadira Madati Mata Bhuvi Vilutama Nartama Nirvishama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare